So here we see our takeoff sequence in X Planes C00311125. So we move down our control panel and bring the throttle forward. We move back up to click the crosshairs, and that brings up the box which shows that we are now in control of the direction. And when we click B and P, that only goes to the brake and pause. So now we're moving forward, and our attitude or our yaw is being controlled by our cursor. So keep an eye on our speed sensor, our control panel on the top left. And once that reaches 75 knots, we bring our cursor downwards, and that causes the plane to pitch upwards. So at the minute we are just in control of the yaw and also pitch, and that is controlled by where we place the cursor in our box. So if we put it to the left, it yaws to the left. If we put it to the right, it yaws to the right. Then the bottom pitches upwards, the top pitches downwards. And we can also shift it through our views using Q, W, E, and A. So this is lesson 2 on weight and how it affects our airplane. So our first step is to also our settings. So go into collect data in our settings tab, data input and output. Then we tick the last two boxes of speed, location, velocity and distance, and then landing gear vertical. And then we go into select our weight. So we go into aircraft, weight and fuel, and our first weight we are setting it to is 296 pounds. And so once we have completed our takeoff, we go into our data C tab and we look for where all of our 3 lines are flat, or where it goes to 0. And from there, that is where we get our velocity, or in the case of velocity, measured in miles per hour. And we also record our distance in feet. So this procedure is repeated twice. To 600 pounds, which we see here. And again, we go to our data C tab to get our indicator velocity and our distance in feet. And then after that, we set our aircraft to 900 pounds. As we see here, we adjust our weight to 900 pounds. And same procedure, we go through our takeoff sequence with our aircraft. And again, looking for where all 3 lines go flat to 0. So in this lesson we also looked at changing the gravity of the plane, of the world that our plane resides in. So first of all, we need to make sure our payload is at 900 pounds. And then after that, we go up to the top bar and we click on special. Then we go into set environmental properties and we go to planet MU, which is our mass or our gravity, and we set that to 0.660. And then we just do our takeoff sequence as normal. As you can see, it's a lot harder to control the plane's movements due to lack of gravity, and the plane is getting over the place, but eventually we'll get it to take off. And then afterwards we go into our data C tab and look for the same elements that we had before. We look to see that all 3 lines go to 0, and that is where we get our velocity, or indicated velocity, and our distance in feet. So in lesson 3 we cover lift and drag. So our first step is to go into location, then click global airport and final approach to NM under RWY16, and this is set us into the sky. And we set our payload to 196 pounds. After that we go into data and we select to show data for both speed and wing lift. After that we go in special and show flight model, and this is to show our lift lines. Once we've done that, and we go through our 3-second climb, and then we pause and then after that we climb until the lift lines have disappeared, and we go data, and then after that we dip our nose down until we reach AC knocks, and then we record the data once again. So after this we once again go into final approach 3, skilling shift 8, and take note of our indicated airspeed, and then afterwards we deploy our landing gear by pressing G, and once again take note of the indicated airspeed and notice how it drops drag created by us. And lastly we are looking at how our flaps affect our airspeed. So we click to see the speed, the trim, flaps and slats, wing lift and wing drag in our data settings. And once we've done that, we can continue on flying. We can either continue with cockpit view by clicking W to go down to see our cockpit, or we can continue with any view. And so we run into to raise and lower the flaps and take note of how the airspeed changes. So before we're taking a look at how to land our aircraft. So here we are landing at KFC or starting aircraft, and we set our setting to approach 3. So we reduce our airplane down to 1,600 using the throttle or F1. So our airspeed is roughly 8 knots, and we take a look at the lights as we are approaching. All lights into halfway from where we were going with setting appropriate rate, and then all lights into the same height. And when we touch down, we knock off the throttle and turn the brake. So we repeat this again with our flaps down to see how that affects our landing and the speed, and flaps down will increase drag. So as you can see here, we land down really close, and then we repeat this again with different settings such as changing the weather, or we can set it so that we can land on an aircraft carrier. So for my example, I did both. I changed the weather, I put on storms and precipitation and winds, I set them all to moderate, and also attempted to land on an aircraft carrier, which is a small window, so again, not more difficult. So in lesson 6 we're looking at flight stability and how it changes in the different conditions. So firstly we're looking at how our stability changes when we are ascending and descending, and then after that we're looking at how it changes under different centres of gravity and different weights. So here I'm just turning on the correct parameters to look at in the top left corner, and then we are changing our centre of gravity to the minimum that it can go to, and we're also putting our weight as high as possible, and this will make it harder to keep our plane balanced, and it will make it harder to ascend. As you can see here is the challenge to pitch upwards, and so then we change centre of gravity to as far as possible, which will make it harder to descend. And then after that we are returning everything to normal. We are putting our centre of gravity back at 0, and we are putting our weight back to regular, which is about 240 pounds. Our payload back to 240 pounds, and seeing how that compares to the others. So in week 6, lesson 7, we're looking at aspect ratio, and aspect ratio is defined as the length of a wing to the chord. It's a ratio, and basically it affects the lift to drag ratio. The higher the lift to drag ratio, the more lift there is, meaning the easier it is to take off. But the lower it is, there's less lift, but it's easier to maneuver. So here we are testing out different aspect ratios, seeing how they affect takeoff and flight. Ideally, the aspect ratio will fall somewhere between 1 and 12, which all our airplanes did in this video, with our lowest being about 1.5 and our highest nearing the 12. So here you can see each different plane taking off, with the higher aspect ratio having the shortest takeoff distance. So in week 7, lesson 8, we were looking at wing loading. Wing loading is defined as the weight per square foot of wing area, and wing area is just the chord length by the length of the wing. So we are looking at how different wing loading affects takeoff performance and flight performance. So as you can see here, we are adjusting the aspect ratio of each wing, and we'll then move on to adjusting the weight of each wing, and then we will move it off into our takeoff sequence to see how our takeoff is affected, which takeoff takes longer, which takeoff is easier, due to the different wing loading and aspect ratios. And we repeated for each plane. We had 3 different planes. We took off in each one 3 times and got the average result. So in lesson 9, in week 8, we were looking at power loading, and power loading is defined as the gross weight of a plane divided by its horsepower. So in this lesson, we are tasked with making 3 different airplanes, each with different horsepowers and with different power loading. So the first plane has 0.06, second plane is 0.11, and third plane is 0.2. And we are tasked with seeing how different horsepower affects flight, and in particular velocity. And so we have to establish level flight for 3 minutes, see how horsepower affects our velocity as we are flying around, and how much horsepower is needed to power each plane.